right, guys. Welcome in. I'm going to tell you what, this is I guess I would say, welcome to college football recruiting. It's getting back, it's getting busy. I wanted to jump on today because obviously there's been some eyebrow raising, some whoa moments here for Georgia football recruiting. And one of the things I try to be is very accountable to our audience. I wanted to come on when there's good news, when there's bad news, because I know this is a subject matter that is obviously of great importance to Dog Nation. The big story for today would be the decommitment of five-star Big Bear Alexander. Let me see. Let me give you kind of a timeline and kind of to see what I can share here about what's going on. So, and I think we've got a tweet there. And if you look at Big Bear Alexander's words, you see the landscape of college football has changed. And I think really the takeaway, and listen, folks, I'm going to own it. I was right here in this chair on a Cover 4 Live. I've just gotten through speaking to Big Bear Alexander. You guys have seen the video from that conversation over the weekend. We talked at length off camera. We talked at length on camera. We asked him about how he felt. We asked him why he was going to visit visit other schools, if he was committed to Georgia. Other commitments were telling me in the class that Big Bear was doing a lot of work behind the scenes to galvanize and organize. And then he goes and visits Texas A&M. And I think Texas A&M, as it was described to me, he had a great time, as all of these kids are going to have a great time. And he enjoyed himself, and he had a great feeling at Texas A&M. So it started, I guess I would say it started the ball rolling about, wow, in Big Bear Alexander's mind. He's like, he kind of felt uncertain about his commitment to Georgia, even though he said all those great things on camera, red and black and white in his veins. Feels blessed to be able to take over Jordan Davis's number 99. He was just 5 months away. And I think, I even, listening to all those things and seeing how he's working behind the scenes, and then actually knowing that, Big Bear Alexander had been talking about how much he loved Georgia. I've been listening to him. He's been telling me about how much he loved Georgia for months and months before he made that commitment back in February. And for Big Bear Alexander, when he committed on National Signing Day 2021, seemed very legit, type of player that Georgia was in on early. They were recruiting heavily during the pandemic. I think what we should learn right now is that, like, all of these guys are really basically hitting the reset button on their recruitment. I'd like to point out a guy like Malachi Starks, who's committed to Georgia, a five-star from Jefferson High School in Jefferson, Georgia. Malachi Starks is committed to Georgia. He's not going to go see other schools. Now, to me, I guess that would be the modern real-time definition of what feels like committed. I think here's the thing, guys, and I'm trying to explain this as best as I can, give you guys a little bit of insight as much as I can. I still think there's good reason for Big Bear Alexander to come back to Georgia. But I think he's just going to do the search and discovery process all over again. It was almost like his recruiting process, which led him to commit to Georgia and stay loyal to Georgia until June, was kind of like the preseason or the exhibition part of his recruiting. And now, when things are really going to start to matter, when he goes on these visits, he's going to find out where exactly he wants to be and needs to be and feels led to be. I still think there's a lot of reasons for him to come back to Georgia. Folks might wonder, hey, Jeff, historically, is there ever a guy that's as highly rated as Big Bear Alexander that decommits and then comes back to the Bulldogs? Those are wondering that maybe he's all Texas A&M bound. That's not the way it was relayed to me. I'd like to bring up an example with Adam Anderson. Adam Anderson was a guy that was committed to Georgia. Lots of good reasons why. Then he backed up, committed to LSU, and then found his way back to Georgia. Five-star talent, nation's number one outside linebacker at the time in the 2018 class. And he's now seen, after what should be a great year for him in the 2021 season, as a very likely first or second or third round draft pick. It was relayed to me that Big Bear Alexander is basically wide open now, starting all over. He's going to go visit. There's really about 5 or 6 schools now that are in the running for Big Bear. Georgia is one of them. You saw how Mr. Alexander displayed his feelings for Georgia and Bulldog Nation and Dog Nation in that tweet. He's going to go take an official visit to Miami this weekend. So here's what I know. When you're committed to a school for so long, I know some schools will wonder, are you in it? Are we really in it? Or do we really have a chance? And I think when the decommitment happens, I think that opens a lot more schools up for Big Bear Alexander. I would say that Texas A&M is definitely in it. Georgia is definitely in it. And then also Miami is in it. I would say Alabama is in it, and a couple more schools after that. Big Bear Alexander is going to look around. He's a terrific talent. I think the thing that Georgia fans and Dog Nation should look to here is that they're going to Georgia's got a lot of, I guess, investment. Georgia's got a lot of emotional capital. Let me use a better word there than investment. Let me use the word emotional capital, where he's got a lot of feelings. He's got a lot of connections with Georgia in the recruiting office, not just the coaches, not just everybody on staff. And I think it's going to be a race, and I think it's going to be a chase for Big Bear Alexander going forward. You guys have any questions? Certainly drop them in the chat on Facebook or YouTube. I'll do my best to get to all of them. But I think the main thing with all these recruits is they have inexperience with visits now and how they should feel and what they missed out on. And I think you're going to see a lot of even the committed players want to take a lot of these visits and see what's on the other side of the fence and see what else is out there. The other big story of the day, and I wanted to get to that before we jump into questions, because I know people will have some questions about that, and sort of a wild day for recruiting. Class of 2022 defensive back, Jamarian Burt. Now 6'1", he's about 180. I've been speaking to him today as well. He felt that he made a premature commitment to Georgia. He didn't have his family with him. He showed up and worked out today, got the offer. And you want to talk about a visit high, you want to talk about an offer high. He felt led to make what he describes now as an early or a premature commitment. Of course, he took the commitment tweet that he had down. You never saw the Go Dogs commitment tweet from Kirby Smart, which is a pretty clear tell there. And then Jamarian Burt does say that he loves Georgia. He wants to come back to Georgia, and Georgia should now be seen as the leader in his recruitment. So you have the highest ranking guy in Georgia's class decommitting today after what was a terrific return to normal visit for him, and go see the family type visit with him in Athens. And he saw Texas A&M. He's going to see Miami this weekend as well on an official. And then you have a guy that tweets out a commitment to Georgia, says he is committed, and then he backs off that tweet. He deletes the tweet because he doesn't feel the timing was right. This was a 3-star athlete who committed. He was committed, or he was evaluated and offered by Georgia to play cornerback. And Jamarian Burt was a 3-star athlete out of Ocala, Florida, Forest High School. Let me see. You've got everything going on now with the aftermath of Georgia's official visit weekend. And it's funny, one of the things I described in the Big Bear Alexander story when I was kind of tipped off on it early this morning is that as much as goodwill and as much positive momentum that Georgia established over the weekend with the class of 2022, well, here comes, I guess you would say, a gut punch or a staggering blow with the highest rated commitment in the class decommitting and backing up off his decision. I think that's a good general framing of what everything that's happened so far today, the events of the day so far. Georgia, I must also share here, retains by the narrowest of margin. I think it's like 2 percentage points on the 24/7 Sports composite. Georgia narrowly holds on to the nation's #1 class for 2022. So with that, all chopped up there and put to work, let's take some questions. You guys got one? I will do my best to answer a lot of these. I think, I think as I'm waiting for like Facebook to pull up now on my phone and YouTube as well, but I have a clear kind of go-to line that still makes sense in every sort of recruiting cycle, especially this one. That this is kind of like quantum physics, or it's kind of like nuclear medicine. This is a very unstable field. Like, what's more unstable than some nuclei? Well, how about the hearts and minds and of an impressionable 17, 18-year-old kid? I think a lot of these recruits simply just need to experience all these things and try to figure out where exactly home is. Let me see. Let me see what I can grab. Foster Moss says, no, this is not all BA's fault. Cody Ledoux, I'm catching you on YouTube right now. Nick Williams showing out for Texas A&M. Let me see. Carl Temple makes a point here that this is what I think some people would call these recruits at this time opportunists. I don't know if I'd go that far, but Carl Temple makes a point. If he was in position, he'd take advantage of all the recruiting process has to offer. You can't get the most out of dating if you tell people you're in a relationship. Let me see. I think really there's a lot going on here with the Big Bear Alexander story that I think most are not aware of. That kind of won't be known for a while. I mean, I think that's one of the things, everybody's like, you guys saw the video, you guys saw the conviction in Bear's eyes, you saw the way he said a lot of those things, red, black, and white in his veins. These kids are kids, and he's a super nice kid, great, very responsive. There's a gentleness and a calmness and a kind of a quiet intelligence that sometimes comes out when you get a chance to talk to Bear or zoom back and forth with Bear. Very contrite. He really has the life experiences, I think, of about a 30, 35-year-old man in a 17, 18-year-old kid's body. And you just kind of see how he can feel that way about Georgia, feel so great about everything at Georgia, and kind of articulated it so well on camera. And then all of a sudden he takes a visit, and that visit causes a lot of doubt in his mind. I mean, one of the things that we tried to do in that interview is we tried to sit there and we tried to say, okay, now let's talk about it. You're going to take visits. Why are you taking visits? What does it mean for you with Nick Williams? And Nick Williams is a terrific recruiter, a very impressionable recruiter. He's a guy that builds long-lasting relationships. I could probably count maybe 2 or 3 guys that are on the Georgia roster that if Nick Williams wasn't at Georgia, I don't know, maybe if they end up choosing Georgia, or the choice to Georgia becomes a lot more difficult there. Coach Williams is just that good at what he does as a recruiter. Frank Patterson has a question. He's like, as long as Bears news doesn't affect Branson Chubb, Frank, you've already given him a good last name there, I see. He does not care where he goes. Frank Patterson, I don't know if you just joined us, but that commitment is off the table. I spoke to Mr. Burt. He says that's a premature commitment. He is not committed to Georgia at this time. Georgia is his outright leader. He loves Georgia, but he thinks he made that commitment out of haste. He wants to come back and make that commitment and see Georgia more with his family. He just visited Georgia today. He was just offered today, and he came out with some commitment news on his social media. One big thing to think about there is that Mr. Burt was offered as a cornerback. Let me give you that information, not a safety. He was offered as a cornerback. He just had all this happen today, so it was very, very quick, very premature. It really happened really fast. Then you never really saw the Go Dogs commitment tweet to come out from Kirby Smart's account afterwards. People are getting on. You guys are blaming a lot of folks. You're blaming Brandon's over optimism. You're blaming Mike's NIL and a bag full of money comments. Mudcat Jones, like the nickname Mudcat, he says in today's world of college football, nothing is set in stone. Very unstable things right now. I think it's, for a lot of these kids, like they saw the 2021 recruiting class miss out on any meaningful visits whatsoever. So now they're all going to visit. I think Michael Williams has visited 6 schools by now. Michael Williams has visited more schools this last week than remember those Visa and MasterCard and, those credit card mobile vendors, the guys with the kiosks and the tents and we'll give you a free bag, we'll give you some free swag. Mikael Williams has been all over. Let me see. So it's a lap around YouTube. Thanks to everybody for joining us, by the way. I just wanted to come on and talk a little bit about Big Bear Alexander, then also the commitment that wasn't, the faux commit, the premature commit, what do you want to say it, from the 2022 athlete out of Florida. Georgia's commitment board now stands at 11, still stands at 11 with a decommitment of Big Bear Alexander. Georgia's still the #1 class, narrowly over Ohio State as well. There you go. Frayne Fletterman. Yeah, there's a good chance that Georgia will still come. I think Georgia is definitely one of the 3 or 4 schools I think that legitimately have a chance to sign Bear in the end. You got to remember, Bill Kelly makes a great point. Commitments aren't binding, even enrollment isn't binding with the transfer portal now. And I know a lot of you guys that really like Bear. For me, I've been doing this quite a while. And you saw the video. I talked to him on camera. I talked to him off camera. It seemed like he was going to take a lot of visits, and it seemed like it was going to be hard for him. It might have seemed hard for him to stay committed to Georgia, but he was certainly putting on the front that he was still very much in love with the chance to play at Georgia. He felt blessed. I asked him about a moment in the locker room and how he was kind of just soaking it all in him. He was at Georgia. He was wearing number 99. That was the school. Nate Smalls makes a good point. Georgia still has a highly rated defensive tackle from Georgia. That's Tyree West. But Tyree West has also visited Florida State and Auburn this weekend. Tyree West is about one of the most committed dudes you could ask for out of the class. Gary Stokes, to answer the question, I answered it at the jump of our show. He just needs to see more schools. He needs to open it up because he had great feelings about the Texas A&M visit. He wanted to see more schools, and he wanted to compare the feeling at Georgia to other schools so he would know what was right. He's taking an official visit to Miami this weekend. I would say Georgia, Miami, Texas A&M, Alabama. Those schools look like they're really big contenders for Big Bear. Maybe Texas, maybe Oklahoma. But Alexander had for a time. Let's look at in recruiting. I like to follow actions, not words. And even though Big Bear had a great interview that really sounded very pro Georgia coming off that visit, he was a guy that when he committed to Georgia, he changed his number. So none of the other really coaches could get after him and talk to him. But now when the visits open up, this is a new opportunity for him to just make sure he's making the right decision. The Brandon Turnage example, I think it's kind of directly related to maybe he was coming in thinking he would be an A1A contender for the job at corner. There was an opening, there was a job opportunity there. And then you add Darion Kendrick, a guy that comes in with a lot of juice as well. And all suddenly the player wants to know if that's really the best decision for him. Jimmy L. Kelly, you're making a very funny comment. We're getting Bear Alexander confused with B.A. Brandon Adams. So listen, this is Dog Nation. We got to give BA. He's earned it. He's held that badge for a long time. I guess if you're talking about Big Bear Alexander and you want to go with the acronym, maybe you need to go BBA. Speaking of defensive tackles, Christian Miller, the All-American out of Cedar Grove High School, he's visiting Georgia today. That will be a big trip as well. Lots of other guys are in town. And again, a slew of guys are coming in. Walter Nolan, he was at Florida this past weekend. Certainly seems he's linked up with Evan Stewart. A lot of guys, a lot of current Florida Gators, a lot of potential future Florida Gators. Nick Ewers, the quarterback, also Tyler Booker, had a great time. I would think any decision made by Walter Nolan will have to go kind of the same upon further review that Big Bear Alexander's decision did. I think the only commitments now, and especially the only commitments that happen right now, You got to see whether they hold up to visits. You got to see whether the kid is not going anywhere else, because if these schools are not going to let a player like Big Bear Alexander or even a Walter Nolan go away easily. So I think the chances of these flips, the chances of these decommitments are very strong, especially when a young man is still taking his visits. I think a lot of these kids, Alan McGovern, most of them were locking in their offers, so teams didn't move on to other recruits. And he says, let the games begin. Alan McGovern, that's his point. Tim Wilson thinks that Big Bear Alexander will recommit to Georgia. I think he saw how much fun it was to be on campus now and wants to get more visits to other schools and enjoy the whole experience. I mean, guys, we've written about Big Bear's life. There's been some ebbs and flows and some definitely valleys and peaks in his life. And I think he's decided that he wants to look around. He wants to see everything else. And I mean, again, one of the tactics Georgia has always had, especially in years past, now coming out of a pandemic, everything's really all on the table or off the table. But with an early commitment like that, Georgia would encourage those guys to go see everywhere else, to go look around and make sure that, hey, I know you came to us first. I know you committed us first, but go check us out. Go check everybody else. Compare us to them, because I think that's a good way to make sure that these recruits come to Georgia and the hard work that they'll have to endure with no blinders on, that they know that they vetted it, that they looked around, and that Georgia was the best choice for them. I think it's important to note that. And then you've got these young men now that, with the transfer portal looming, I think it's even more important for these young men and even the schools themselves to try and really make sure the kids make a fully educated decision before they get to their school. That way, when things get hard, things get rough, well, then they know what else was out there and why they chose to sign with the school that they did. Marcinio Askew, Mr. Askew, Big Bear Alexander, the 5-star Georgia commitment, the highest rated commitment in Georgia's class. He decommitted from Georgia this morning. He's going to take his visits, fresh off a visit to Texas A&M. He's going to visit Miami this weekend on an official visit. It'd be very interesting to see what happens with Georgia's defensive line class, because they're certainly going to have big options. I think Travis Shaw is a gargantuan name. I think Aaron Bryant is a big name. I spoke to Aaron Bryant last night. He told me that he had a committable offer from Georgia. Trey Scott told him 2 weeks ago, prior to his official, that he would accept his commitment at any time. And then it was reinforced this past weekend on his official visit. That having been said, Aaron Bryant, now don't get fooled in all those 3-star weeds there. He was a 3-star because he was an offensive lineman before his junior season. When his junior tape came out, totally different player. Aaron Bryant right now is actually on an unofficial visit to Alabama today. Alabama really likes what they see in Aaron Bryant. He won't be able to work out at Alabama. He didn't work out at Georgia. He's got a high ankle sprain. Aaron Bryant is also going to visit Texas and Texas A&M. There go those Aggies again, always rearing their head, even for a young man out of Mississippi. Aaron Bryant says he's probably still about 2 to 3 months away from any sort of public commitment to any certain school. He just doesn't want to make a decision and then have to be the guy that comes back on it and decommits, and kind of has that kind of flip-floppy, wishy-washy nature. That's not what makes sense to him with his recruiting. Yeah, Bill, that's right. Dabo won't let his recruit commitments visit other schools. Dabo Swinney will say, if you want to go visit that school, fine. You just got to decommit from Clemson first. And which is what happened a lot of times in Clemson's history. I think the Nolan Smith recruitment comes to mind. For a commitment to come visit and take an official visit to Clemson, for an official, Clemson will ask those guys to decommit from their current school if they want to take a commitment and if they want to take an offer from, if they want to take an official visit to Clemson. Folks, this is just the new world of recruiting. This is going to be a lot of undiscovered country, because like I said earlier in the show, you can have all these years of experience in doing this, and you can compare the feelings you see and the things that are pointed out by recruits with your baseline of knowledge about, okay, that's what this kid felt. That's the same things they said. This sounds like the same things. Well, I think none of that, a lot of the experience you have here you're going to have to filter that through with the fact that none of these kids have any visit experience yet. All these guys are really redshirt freshmen now, just getting on the field with visits and pressures and these high stakes recruiting. And I think really it's a whole new ball game for the class of 2022 going forward. Those commitments that are certainly within their right to take their visits, there's certainly a chance for a lot of those guys to find something else they haven't seen before. Because prior to this week, these past 6, 7, 8 days, none of these recruits, 7 days, excuse me, everything opened up on Tuesday. But prior to that, nobody had been on a college campus since March of 2020. So that was a long time, You guys have any more questions? I wanted to come by and spend about 20, 25, 30 good minutes with you. You guys have any other questions? Let me be sure. Blair Davis makes the point. What do you expect from 18-year-olds? If I was in their shoes, I would weigh all my options too. But one thing in Georgia's favor is it's a top 5 school. So let this all play out. Keep recruiting. John William Adams brings up a good point about Dayon Bowie. So Dayon was there with Big Bear Alexander prior to that visit. He said he's still locked in with Georgia. And he said he was going to take the visit and go check it out, largely out of respect to Nick Williams, who's out of Bainbridge, Georgia, the same hometown where he's grown up and was basically his primary recruiter at Georgia. Dayon Bowie also is going to probably visit Alabama. He's going to take a lot of his visits, but as of now, he still remains very locked in with Georgia. Let me see. That's a lap through Facebook. How about YouTube? Man, a lot of comments, a lot of questions there. RT Todd says he thinks Dayon Bowie is next. Frank Patterson wants a better nickname game in the class. He wants Fat Man offered. Fat Man's coming in on the 3rd week of June on an official visit, actually. Crow King 123 says this is going to be a chaotic 2 months for the college football world in recruiting. Yannick Kazadi, how many defensive linemen does Georgia take this year? Let me go through the list. I think they take 5 defensive linemen. Google user, your anonymity is fine. Like I said, I said he was saying the things and doing the things, and I'm owning it, man. That made him seem as invested as a recruit, kind of like the Richard LeCount, the one that's got the big voice that can encourage everyone to go check out Georgia. The guy that when he speaks, everyone listens. That was what Big Bear Alexander was doing. Multiple folks have been pointing to Big Bear Alexander as kind of a leader in the class amongst those guys for some time now. The Barking Dog has a very cynical comment. I think there's some kernels of truth to that. As Barking Dog simply offers the opinion that recruits will bleed maroon blood, then orange and green, then crimson, and then orange again. Connor Riley's got a question. Hey, Connor. Is the Bear decommitment the biggest in terms of impact under Kirby Smart? Well, there's 2 ways to judge that, Connor. Long-term, 2020 hindsight and all that. I think Elijah Moore would probably, to me, seems like the biggest decommitment. That was a player that I think Georgia could have still held on to in that class. But look what Elijah Moore would have been for Georgia's offense over the past 2 or 3 years. Yeah, Yannick, I think I answered your question. I hope I did. Richard Dees, I guess I'll come back to that point. He's going to take his visits, man. He's very uncertain. He's undecided. He had a great visit to Texas A&M, which is like he had a great visit to Georgia, and the feelings were similar. The feelings were good at both places, and he's wondering, like, hey, is that going to happen everywhere I go? I need to find out, like, what's actually a really good fit. Bear had very emotionally charged and powerful comments about Georgia. All right, guys. Hey, I wanted to come on. I got a lot of stuff to write. Got a couple more stories to write, recapping some of the official visits and everything today. But let's see if we can recap. Brandon Turnage Great official visit weekend for Georgia, a momentum builder for the class with a lot of those guys. Then you have a decommitment from Big Bear Alexander, a guy that was committed, but then not so fast. My friend was not committed. He thought it was premature. The athlete out of Ocala, Florida, pulled that one back. And hey, it's just Monday, and I think the visits have only been open. The visit sign, kind of like the Krispy Kreme sign, or your favorite donut shop or whatever. That one's only been open for about 6 days now. Tomorrow will be the 7th day. It's amazing how college football is going to be. The month of June, especially, because I think the month of July, there's only 1 week in July where recruits can visit. The rest of that will be dead, and then these recruits will start to concentrate on their teams and their high school teams and their high school seasons, if they haven't already by then. And then they will be allowed to visit again in like September once games start as well. Look for Big Bear Alexander to give Georgia an official visit during the season and just see where it's at. He's gonna bring it all in. He's gonna absorb it all in. He's gonna run it all through the filter. He's gonna see everything he needs to see, and then he's gonna make an educated and informed business decision, and not just an emotional decision with all the ties he had established with Georgia. Going back for a very long time. Georgia's top 5 team, got great relationships. Georgia's got great facilities. And there is some sentiment there. The Jordan Davis stuff, number 99, talking to Devontae Wyatt this past weekend, how Bear Alexander told me he feels about everybody in the recruiting office at Georgia, Cam Lemons, Logan Reed. Those folks definitely made an impression on him, and it will be up to Georgia to see if they can reel back in the commitment. A popular question that comes up is, hey, man, do the 5 stars ever come back once they decommit? I guess I can point to the decision made by Adam Anderson to return to Georgia as a pretty big and bright example right there. Anyway, guys, I'm Jeff. I wanted to come on and talk about all the news over the last 24 hours in terms of recruiting. I hope we've been able to kind of dial in and frame up what we're seeing right now with Big Bear Alexander. I owed it to you guys to come on and talk to you about it, what I've seen, what I heard, and what I think led to the commitment. Hopefully we've answered all your questions. I'll catch you later. We'll see everybody on the pages of dognation.com. Have a great week. Feel blessed. Try to be a blessing to somebody else out there. And you guys have yourself a great week. We'll talk again soon.